Usually when we think about a massive, pristine pop hit, there's this expectation of like surgical precision, like a luxury sports car just rolling right off an assembly line.
Oh, absolutely. We assume there's this flawless, inevitable trajectory from a brilliant idea to a global smash. Glossy, clean, and entirely predetermined.
Right, and we like that narrative. We like to think greatness is this highly organized, visible process. But then you step into the actual world of modern pop production, and suddenly that luxury sports car is, well, it's actually being built out of spare parts from a junkyard.
Yeah, it really is. We're looking at a creative landscape that is chaotic, messy, and honestly driven by accidents. It is the absolute definition of a beautiful, highly functioning mess.
And that contrast, the difference between the polished final product and the completely chaotic origin, that's exactly what we're tearing apart today.
I can't wait.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today's mission is to completely deconstruct a modern pop phenomenon, which is Dua Lipa's track, New Rules.
This is a massive song.
It really is. And we aren't just skimming the surface for you guys today. We have a massive stack of sources driving this exploration.
Oh, we really do.
We've got an incredibly detailed, raw, 2-hour live stream transcript from the song's producer, Ian Kirkpatrick, and he literally opens up the project files on screen.
Which is so rare to see.
We've also got a fantastic in-depth interview he did with The Fader. Plus, we're pulling official chart, sales, and cultural impact data from Wikipedia and Music Week.
Right, and we're even digging into the visual storytelling and high-low fashion from a dedicated style blog. It's a really fascinating mix of materials today.
It's crazy. We're going from highly technical audio engineering notes, like looking at exactly how specific vocal frequencies were manipulated, all the way to, high fashion critique and cultural sociology.
Because the goal isn't just to talk about a catchy song you've probably heard a million times in the grocery store.
Exactly. We want to dissect the lyrical themes of female empowerment, the genuinely bizarre weirdo pop production secrets, and the visual storytelling.
The stuff that turned what was originally a rejected, unwanted demo into a global smash.
Because by the end of this deep dive, you are going to hear how the flawless, commanding vocal, actually feature sounds recorded from a literal trash can in Vegas.
Yeah, a literal trash can. And the background chatter of the writers accidentally left in the final mix.
Right. And a vocal trick that involves digitally manipulating the very fabric of time. But before we get into the synthesizers and the trash cans, we have to establish where the actual lyrics and the core concept came from.
Because hit songs almost never originate where you think they do. The polished product always hides a very meandering, often frustrating journey.
Let's look at the origin story. It starts in a songwriting camp. And when you hear songwriting camp, you might picture like a retreat in the woods with acoustic guitars around a campfire.
Right, something very bohemian and relaxed.
But in the pop industry, these are essentially high-pressure factories, right?
Very much so. They're highly organized events. Labels put groups of writers and producers into different studio rooms for a week, and they just hope they strike gold for a specific artist.
You're given a brief, a target artist, and a deadline. It's intense.
And this specific camp was not for Dua Lipa.
Wait, really? Who's it for?
This song was initially written specifically for the British girl group Little Mix.
Oh, wow. Little Mix. Okay, so we have 3 writers in the room for this camp. Caroline Aylan, Emily Warren, and Ian Kirkpatrick, who's also handling the production.
Right.
And what fascinates me is the psychology of what they actually wrote in that room, because this isn't just a vague pop chorus about, missing somebody. It is an incredibly specific, rigid set of instructions.
The lyrics function as a literal self-preservation manual. I mean, when you look at the text, it explicitly lays out 3 rules.
All right, let's bring those in.
So rule 1, don't pick up the phone. He's only calling because he's drunk and alone. Rule 2, don't let him in. You'll have to kick him out again. And rule 3, don't be his friend. You're going to wake up in his bed in the morning.
The language there is just so commanding. There are no complex, flowery metaphors masking the pain.
No, not at all.
It's written in the imperative mood. Do not do this. Do not do that. It feels like an intervention.
It is an intervention.
Yeah.
And if we look closely at that first rule, he's only calling because he's drunk and alone part, it completely strips away all the romanticism we usually see in pop music.
Right. Think about how many songs romanticize the late-night phone call from an ex.
Oh, totally. I need you now. I can't sleep without you. The whole booty call as an act of true love trope.
Exactly. But here, Aylin and Warren are demystifying it. They are calling it exactly what it is, pathetic.
Yeah, he isn't calling because he had an epiphany about your profound connection. He's calling because his inhibitions are lowered and he has literally no one else around.
It's a sobering reality check. And the genius is that this stern reality check came from a very real place. Emily Warren talked about her philosophy in the studio.
And this is such a crucial point. Early in her career, she was given this classic, frankly terrible industry advice to never write a song where the male partner will not get it.
Meaning you always have to cater to the male gaze, or at least ensure the male ego can comfortably digest the narrative.
Exactly, which is a remarkably limiting box to put a female songwriter in. It demands that the female experience be filtered and diluted so it doesn't alienate a male listener.
But Warren actively ignored that advice. The lyrics of New Rules stem from a highly specific, unfiltered female experience.
Yeah, it was directly inspired by Caroline Aylin's real-life, present-tense struggles with the temptation to get back together with a toxic ex-boyfriend.
She was literally in the studio dealing with the urge to answer the phone while they were writing.
And by rejecting that conventional wisdom, keep things generic and digestible for everyone, they tapped into something incredibly raw.
Dua Lipa herself later stated that New Rules is the breakup song she wished she had when she was going through her own messy breakups.
Because it's entirely about keeping your distance from someone who is inherently bad for you, even when every fiber of your being wants to cave in.
I want to look at a specific lyric that I think is the emotional anchor of the whole song, and it comes right after the rules are established.
That's one.
And if you're under him, you ain't getting over him. That is a brilliant double meaning.
Oh, it's one of the sharpest lyrical turns in modern pop.
Mm-hmm.
Because on a literal physical level, under him refers to the physical act of intimacy.
Right. If you are sleeping with him, you are moving on.
But on an emotional, psychological level, being under him refers to a power dynamic. If you are under his thumb, under his spell, submitting to his emotional hierarchy, you will never get over the relationship.
You're trapping yourself in a subordinate position. It's so clever, but it's delivered with such a stern, almost schoolmarmish tone.
Which is actually how the sources describe the required vocal delivery.
And that brings up this hilarious and very telling dynamic in the studio while they were writing this. Ian Kirkpatrick, in his live stream, tells this story about the writing session.
Oh, I love this story.
He realizes the song is basically this escapist fantasy of girl power. And at one point, he makes a dumb passing joke saying something like, well, men have it hard too.
And Emily and Caroline immediately put him in his place.
Immediately.
They tell him to sit down, reminding him that as a man in the music industry, he already has a massive platform and doesn't need to center himself in this specific narrative.
And to Kirkpatrick's credit, he has this immediate epiphany. He realizes, okay, I am happily going to be the punching bag in this room today for the sake of the song.
He stepped back and let the women dictate the emotional core of the track, which is a beautiful moment of creative self-awareness.
It really is.
He recognized that the magic of the song was rooted in a specific female solidarity that he couldn't fully experience, but that he could certainly help facilitate musically. He understood his role was to build the stage, not to grab the microphone.
But here's where I want to push back on the structure of the song, or at least, throw out a theory for you to validate.
Okay, well, too.
Because when you read these lyrics on paper, the rules, the bluntness, the intervention tone, it's a lecture. It's heavy.
Right.
But the music underneath it is this bouncy, infectious, tropical house, electropop, dance hall beat. It feels like a Trojan horse.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
It uses this incredibly sunny rhythm to smuggle in a very serious, strict self-help lecture. If I were a record executive, I might look at that and say, the music and the lyrics are fighting each other. People want to dance. They don't want to lecture.
Right, you'd think it would clash.
So does the hyper-specificity of these rules and the stern tone limit its appeal? Or is that dissonance exactly why it works?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that dissonance is exactly why it works. The dissonance is the hook. What's fascinating here is the paradox of great songwriting. Hyperspecificity actually creates universality. By making the song so detailed about the phone call, because he's drunk, about waking up in his bed, the listener doesn't feel like they're being sung at by a distant pop star.
You feel like you are eavesdropping on a private, urgent conversation among a close group of friends.
Precisely. You feel invited into the inner circle. And the Trojan horse mechanism you mentioned, the upbeat dancehall rhythm, masking a painful emotional intervention. It creates a profound emotional friction.
You are physically compelled to dance, but intellectually, you are absorbing a message about survival.
It mirrors the feeling of trying to shake off a bad mood by going out with your friends. You are literally dancing through the pain.
So they write this incredible, specific Trojan horse of a song for Little Mix. It has the harmonies, it has the sass. Little Mix must have heard this and immediately recognized it as a career-defining hit, right?
Well, no. And this is where we transition from the creative high of the writing room to the often treacherous, soul-crushing reality of pitching a pop song.
It's brutal.
The reality is, New Rules sat around for months. It was passed on by multiple artists, including Little Mix.
Wait, months. This track that we now know is a billion-stream, culture-shifting masterpiece, just collected digital dust on a hard drive?
Yeah.
Why? How do A&R reps and artists hear that song and say, no thanks?
To understand that, you have to understand what these artists are listening to. They aren't hearing the final, polished Dua Lipa track. They are hearing a rough demo.
Oh, right.
And the primary criticism New Rules faced from at least one major artist's camp was that the demo didn't have a notable hook.
Are you kidding me? New Rules doesn't have a hook. The entire song is a hook.
I know.
The chorus is literally 3 numbered rules that get permanently lodged in your cerebral cortex. That is insane.
It sounds absurd in hindsight, but as Ian Kirkpatrick notes in his live stream, when you're just listening to a raw demo, the magic isn't always apparent.
A hook isn't just a catchy melody.
Exactly. It's the marriage of melody, lyric, and delivery. In the demo phase, the vocal delivery might not have had the necessary gravitas. Kirkpatrick even admitted in his interview with The Fader that he had practically written the song off.
Really?
Yeah, he said his manager pitched it to someone months later, and his internal reaction was, what do I know? Everyone's an idiot.
I love that. Everyone's an idiot. Words to live by for any creative, so the song is languishing. Then Dua Lipa steps in.
Right.
At this point, in early 2017, she was in an interesting spot in her career. She had actually announced to her fans on Facebook that she was postponing her debut album from January to June specifically to record more material.
She felt the album wasn't done yet.
So she travels to Los Angeles, and Kirkpatrick plays her this rejected demo.
And this is the crucial turning point. You have to realize that Dua Lipa takes a lot of pride in her songwriting. She usually prefers to write all her own music because she wants her story to come directly from her.
Which makes sense.
But when she heard New Rules, she felt an immediate, visceral connection to it. She didn't reject it because she didn't write it. She adopted it because it articulated exactly what she was feeling.
She said she felt as if Emily and Caroline had written it with her in mind, even though they hadn't. That speaks to the universality of that specific female experience they captured.
She didn't just sing the demo. She embodied the persona.
Exactly. And that transition from demo to final track brings us to the vocal tracking process, which is where the song graduates from a clever idea to a Grammy-level execution.
The vocals were tracked partially at Tap Studio and Strong Room 7 in London, and also at NRG Studios in North Hollywood. And Ian mentions they used a vintage 251 microphone.
I want to pause on the microphone for a second because audio nerds always obsess over gear. A vintage Telefunken ELA M251 is a legendary, incredibly expensive tube microphone.
Oh, it's a holy grail piece of equipment.
Why does that matter? Is it just a flex to say you used expensive gear, or does it physically change the sound of her voice?
It fundamentally changes the texture of what the listener hears. A vintage tube microphone, like the 251, introduces a very specific type of harmonic distortion, a warmth, especially in the high-mid frequencies.
And Dua Lipa has a very unique vocal tone.
Very much so. It's husky, resonant, slightly dark, and incredibly rich in the lower registers. If you put her on a modern, sterile, ultra-bright digital microphone, it might sound harsh or thin.
But the 251 captures the grit and the velvet in her voice simultaneously.
Yes, it gives her vocal presence a physical weight.
It gives her that authority, because she needs to sound like she is laying down the law. And Kirkpatrick is effusive in his praise for her professionalism in the booth.
He notes that she didn't need long to capture the takes at all.
His direct quote is, "There's no ego, she just fucking delivers."
That lack of ego is vital. Kirkpatrick openly admits the original demo they pitched was just average. The instrumental wasn't quite there, the vibe wasn't quite right.
It was Dua Lipa's unique vocal delivery that transformed it.
That slightly detached, authoritative, deeply resonant tone. She brought the exact necessary amount of sass and gravitas to make those stern rules work.
Without her specific voice, the song might have sounded whiny or overly preachy. She made it sound empowering.
And because Dua's vocal delivery was so stern and grounded, Kirkpatrick knew he couldn't just put a standard, pristine, predictable pop beat behind it. It would sound too heavy.
Too serious. He needed something distinctly weird to contrast her serious tone and create that Trojan horse effect we talked about. This is where we dive into the weirdo pop production.
Yes, the weirdo pop designation is perfect, and it's a badge Kirkpatrick wears with honor. In his Feder interview, he asks rhetorically why pop music shouldn't be the place where we try the coolest, craziest sounds.
We often associate experimental sound design with underground electronic music, but he argues that pop has the biggest platform, so it should take the biggest risks.
He takes immense pride in listeners not being able to identify the source of a sound.
And he accomplishes that beautifully. Let's explain one of the most mind-bending tricks in the song, the halftime vocal trick. Right in the pre-chorus, there's that instantly recognizable line, "I got new rules, I count 'em."
It's the hook before the hook. It builds the tension right before the chorus explodes.
Right. But when you listen closely to the word count, it sounds, off. It sounds jittery, a little alien. It doesn't sound like a normal human voice, but it doesn't sound like an auto-tune robot either.
It's super unique.
How did he physically achieve that texture?
It's a brilliant piece of audio engineering that plays with the physics of sound. Kirkpatrick actually had Dua Lipa sing that specific part to a backing track that was playing at half speed.
So she's in the booth, and the song is dragging along at a painfully slow tempo, and she has to sing, "I got new rules."
Exactly. It requires immense breath control. Now, when a singer holds a note, they naturally introduce vibrato, a slight rhythmic wavering of pitch. By recording her at half speed, he captured her natural vibrato at a very slow pace. Then, once he had that recording, he took the audio file and digitally sped it back up to the normal 116 beats per minute tempo.
Okay, I need an analogy here. If I record a video of my dog walking normally and then I play the video at double speed, the dog looks like it's scurrying incredibly fast, almost unnaturally. Is that what's happening to her voice?
That is exactly what is happening. He manipulates the time, but the software preserves the pitch so she doesn't sound like a chipmunk.
Wow.
The result is that her natural vocal vibrato is suddenly oscillating at double the speed a human throat can physically produce. It creates this incredibly percussive, jarring, unnatural texture on the tail end of the word count.
It's like emotional distortion. It perfectly captures the lyrical theme of that exact moment in the song.
How so?
Well, she says, "I keep pushing forwards, but he keeps pulling me backwards, and now I'm making myself crazy." That jittery, sped-up vibrato sounds like the feeling of making yourself crazy. It sounds like anxiety.
Precisely. The production choices are mirroring the psychological state of the narrator. It's not just a cool trick. It serves the narrative.
And it isn't just the vocals that have this weird found art quality. Let's talk about the percussion, because when you listen to the beat, it doesn't sound like a standard drum machine. It's acoustic, but weirdly processed.
It's delightfully analog, but heavily mutated. Kirkpatrick mentions in the live stream that during the initial writing session, he was using a small, portable Tascam DR40 audio recorder.
Okay.
He was literally just walking around the room, recording himself, tapping on a wooden desk, and tapping the back of an acoustic guitar.
He's making a beat out of office supplies and furniture.
Yes.
Yeah.
He then took those raw audio snippets, chopped them up, and layered them. But here's the critical part. He applied massive amounts of compression to those sounds to make them punchy enough to drive a pop song.
Okay, let's explain compression for the listener, because Kirkpatrick specifically mentions using heavy OTT compression where everything is redlining and clipping. What does that mean in plain English?
So OTT stands for over the top, and it's a specific software plugin known for its extremely aggressive sound. Think of audio compression like trying to pack for a month-long vacation using a tiny carry-on suitcase.
Okay, I've been there.
You put all your clothes in the quiet sounds and the loud sounds, and then you literally sit on the suitcase to force the zipper shut. Everything is squeezed so tightly together that it's practically bursting at the seams.
So the quiet tap of a finger on a desk is suddenly amplified to be as loud and aggressive as a snare drum.
Exactly. And when he says it's clipping, imagine trying to pour a gallon of water into a shot glass. The signal is too big for the digital container, so it spills over the edges.
Which creates that gritty, distorted sound.
Right, that spilling over creates a crunchy sound. He took delicate acoustic taps and turned them into aggressive, distorted percussion hits.
Which is brilliant. But my absolute favorite detail from this entire deep dive, the thing that made my jaw drop, happens during this exact percussion recording phase.
The ghost voices.
Yes. While Kirkpatrick was recording himself tapping on the desk with his little portable recorder, The songwriters, Emily and Caroline, were just sitting in the background of the room chatting, just having a normal, casual conversation about their day. And the microphone picked it all up.
In a traditional, pristine studio environment, that take would be ruined. An engineer would stop the recording, tell everyone to be quiet, and do it again in dead silence.
But Kirkpatrick didn't do that.
No, he leaned into the chaos. He told them, please, keep talking. The more talking, the better. It just makes the room sound natural.
But wait, you can't just leave a casual conversation playing over a lead pop vocal. It would clash completely. So how did he keep their voices in the track without ruining Dua Lipa's vocal?
This is where we get into some truly mad scientist engineering. First, he pitched their background chatter down an entire octave, making it sound deep and unnatural.
Okay.
Then, he ran that audio through a plugin called a bit crusher.
Let me guess, a bit crusher destroys the audio quality.
Yes. It reduces the digital resolution.
Yeah.
It's like taking a beautifully crisp, modern 4K photograph and intentionally saving it as a blocky, highly pixelated JPEG from a 1998 dial-up internet connection. It makes the audio sound crunchy and robotic.
Okay, so now he has deep, pixelated ghost voices. What next?
Finally, he used a noise gate. Think of a noise gate like a bouncer at an exclusive club or an automatic door at a grocery store. The door stays firmly shut until something loud enough walks up to it.
Great.
Kirkpatrick linked the noise gate on the ghost voices to the rhythm of his desk tapping. So the ghost voices are constantly playing in the background, but you only hear brief rhythmic chops of them exactly when the percussion hits.
It creates this breathing, rhythmic texture underneath the main shaker in the track.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
He kept this heavily distorted, pitch-shifted, rhythmically gated ghost conversation in the final multi-platinum mix.
And what I find so profound about this is the hidden symbolism. Even if the listener is completely unaware of it, the literal voices of the women who wrote this song, who were bonding over shared relationship trauma and female solidarity, are embedded into the very rhythmic foundation of the track.
It's a brilliant subconscious meta layer. It perfectly encapsulates his entire production ethos. He isn't looking for perfection, he is looking for character.
This brings us to a crucial philosophy that drives his process. Looking at his project file on the live stream, it looks like absolute chaos.
Well, it's a mess.
It looks like he's just opening his sonic refrigerator, grabbing every random leftover ingredient, some bamboo snares here, massive digital synths there, desk tapping, ghost voices, aggressive distortion, throwing it all into a blender and just hoping it works.
And he quotes a mantra from another songwriter, Shelley Pekin. Dare to suck.
Dare to suck. It is perhaps the most important advice for any creative person. How does he apply that practically in the studio? Because there's a difference between making weird noises and making a Grammy-nominated hit.
The difference is iteration and a complete lack of preciousness. In the live stream, Kirkpatrick shows dozens of muted tracks in his project file. These are all failed experiments.
Right. White noise synthesizers that sounded terrible, strange horn patches that didn't fit, drum loops that clashed.
He actively encourages a mental space where it's okay to have a thoroughly bad idea.
Yeah.
Because if you are constantly policing yourself, trying to only write good ideas, you will only write safe, predictable ideas.
You'll just use the presets that everyone else is using.
Exactly. That willingness to abuse a compressor until it sounds terrible, or to dig for strange, abrasive sounds, as he puts it, finding sounds in a Vegas hotel trash can, is exactly how you stumble upon a completely unidentifiable, unique sonic fingerprint.
When you hear New Rules, you immediately know what song it is within the first half second. That doesn't happen if you play it safe.
Never.
I want to highlight one more production trick before we move on because it is so viscerally active. It's a concept Kirkpatrick calls violating space.
Oh, this part is brilliant.
Right before the massive chorus drops, there's this intense, chaotic, almost Skrillex-inspired drum fill. And the vocal goes from having this huge, echoing, dreamy reverb on it to suddenly sounding entirely dry and directly in your ear.
Reverb, in audio terms, creates a virtual room. It gives the illusion of physical space. When you hear heavy reverb, you feel like the singer is far away in a large hall or a cavern.
Right.
By cutting that reverb instantly, right at the crescendo of the drum fill, Kirkpatrick manipulates the acoustic environment to jar the listener.
It's like you're floating in this dreamy, hazy soundscape, and then instantly, someone turns the fluorescent lights on and slaps you awake.
It creates this sensation that Dua Lipa has literally teleported. She was far away, and now she is standing aggressively right in front of your face to deliver the rules.
It's a production technique that perfectly mirrors the emotional shock of a breakup and the sudden, harsh clarity of an intervention.
It is absolute genius. It takes the listener by the collar.
So, The song is written, the bizarre, trash can-infused weirdo pop production is finished, and Dua's authoritative vocals are locked in. The audio track is a masterpiece.
Done and dusted.
The song is officially released in June 2017, but as our source from Music Week notes explicitly, the audio track alone wasn't the sole driver of its massive success.
No, not at all.
The music video is what truly rocketed this song from a great pop track to a cultural phenomenon.
Absolutely. The visual storytelling didn't just accompany the song. It took the lyrical themes of boundaries and female solidarity and amplified them tenfold. It gave the audience a visual vocabulary for the song's message.
The video was directed by Henry Schofield. They shot it at the Confidante Hotel in Miami, and Dua Lipa had a very specific core vision for this visual. She brought Schofield a reference picture from a 1980s fashion campaign featuring Naomi Campbell.
Yes, the image featured women physically holding each other, supporting each other's weight, and that became the central driving thesis for the video.
It's so powerful.
The lyrics say, "I've got new rules, I count them." But the video asks, how do you actually enforce those rules when you are weak? Lipa wanted to show that your friends literally are the rules.
You see that so clearly in the choreography. There are moments in the video where Lipa is looking at her phone, tempted to answer, or walking down the hallway toward the door.
And her friends don't just talk her out of it, they physically intervene.
They pull her back. They form a physical wall across the hallway. They are a literal physical barrier between her and her own bad decisions.
And the choreography itself, designed by Teresa Barcelo, is incredibly unique and specific. It avoids standard pop video dance routines. Instead, Barcelo incorporated the movements of flamingos.
Flamingos, which sounds absolutely absurd for a pop video, but when you watch it, it makes perfect sense. What does flamingo movement actually look like in this context?
It's characterized by these elegant but slightly awkward communal shapes. You see the women moving in a tight pack, bending their necks, draping their arms over each other's shoulders, moving in unison.
It's really mesmerizing.
Lipa viewed flamingos as this perfect, beautiful representation of female friendship and flocking together. It visually represents the idea of the collective being stronger than the individual. When one person loses their balance, the flock holds them up.
And we absolutely have to look at the fashion, too, because as the Steal Her Style source points out, the clothing choices tell a story of their own. The styling encapsulates the pure, communal joy of a sleepover.
It really does. It captures that specific feeling of getting dressed up with your friends, sharing clothes, and hyping each other up.
The high-low fashion mix is a crucial element of the video's appeal. It bridges the gap between high art aspiration and everyday accessibility.
Exactly.
You look at the breakdown of the outfits, and you have Dua wearing a vintage Gianni Versace Miami print silk blouse, an agent provocateur Pia bikini top, Manolo Blahnik pumps, and literally thousands of dollars in Hermes and Cartier rings.
Which is peak luxury.
Right. But then in the very next scene, she contrasts it with a $39 Silence Plus noise dress that anyone could go buy at Urban Outfitters.
That contrast is deliberate. It feels aspirational, yes, but it also feels deeply relatable, like rummaging through a shared closet with your best friends before a night out. It removes the distance between the pop star and the viewer.
And that accessibility is vital to understanding the broader cultural reception of the video. The themes of self-esteem, diversity, and solidarity struck a massive chord in the summer of 2017. As T.L. Stanley noted in Adweek, the video mirrored a significant bubbling cultural shift.
We have to remember the context of the mid-2010s pop landscape. For years, pop culture had heavily leaned into the trope of women fighting each other, the classic catfight narrative.
Oh, totally. The tabloids loved it.
Think about the highly publicized media narratives pitting female pop stars against each other. The cultural appetite was shifting. Audiences were exhausted by the negativity. New rules arrived right at the crest of a wave, moving toward showcasing women actively, aggressively supporting each other.
It is the ultimate visual definition of girls supporting girls, and the internet completely devoured it. Fans immediately started using the hashtag #DressNewRules to share their own stories of blocking toxic exes.
People were organizing in groups to learn and film their own versions of the flamingo choreography. It transcended its original demographic entirely.
Right, like that viral parody video directed by Jake Wilson.
Exactly. That perfectly mapped the female solidarity of the original video onto the gay male dating experience.
I remember that. It was a shot-for-shot remake with a group of gay men in a house, physically stopping their friend from texting a toxic guy. And Dua Lipa loved it so much, she actually included it in a compilation video of covers on her own official YouTube channel.
which demonstrates the ultimate universality of the specific message. Whether you are a young woman in London or a gay man in Los Angeles, the experience of knowing someone is bad for you, but needing your community to hold you accountable is a universal human truth.
And the numbers back up this massive cross-cultural appeal. This music video made Dua Lipa the youngest female artist in history to surpass 1 billion views on YouTube.
1 billion views. It is a monumental milestone.
So we've traced the origins, we've built the song through the weirdo pop production, we've shot this iconic flamingo-inspired video. Let's look at what happens when this hits the public and the charts, because the commercial explosion of this song is staggering.
It really is.
And we need to understand why it had such immense staying power.
Well, in the UK, it hit #1. This was a massive deal, not just for Dua Lipa, but for the industry. It made her the first female solo artist to top the UK singles chart since Adele did it with Hello nearly 2 years prior in 2015.
That drought of female solo artists at #1 is shocking, and it proves how much New Rules cut through the noise. It was eventually certified 5X Platinum in the UK.
And then it conquered America, which is notoriously difficult for UK pop acts.
British acts often struggle to translate their success across the Atlantic because the radio formats and cultural tastes are subtly different. But New Rules peaked at #6 on the Billboard Hot 100. More impressively, it broke the longevity record on the pop songs chart, staying there for 42 weeks.
42 weeks is an eternity in pop music. Most songs peak and vanish within a couple of months.
Why did it last so long? Was it just the meme ability of the video?
It was a confluence of factors. The video created the initial viral explosion, yes, but the underlying production, that chaotic, friction-heavy, weirdo pop beat, kept it fresh on the radio. It didn't sound like everything else, so listeners didn't get fatigued as quickly.
Makes sense.
And crucially, the lyrics offered a utility. People weren't just listening to it, they were using it. They were sending it to friends who were going through breakups. It became a functional tool for emotional regulation.
It went diamond in Canada, France, and Poland because the core emotional utility translates perfectly across languages.
But with that level of omnipresence, when your song is playing in every car, every club, and on every timeline across the globe, comes an intense, often suffocating level of scrutiny.
And we see this dynamic clearly in a micro-controversy that erupted around some of her live performances in 2018.
She was performing everywhere to promote the track. She did Saturday Night Live. She performed at the Brit Awards on this incredible summer-styled stage. She even performed at the UEFA Champions League final. The demand for her time was astronomical.
But let's look at the friction that comes with massive fame. Let's talk about the drama surrounding Jimmy Kimmel Live.
In March 2018, Dua Lipa was scheduled to tour Australia. However, she had to abruptly cancel some of those tour dates because she was in severe physical pain. She had impacted wisdom teeth and required immediate dental surgery.
Which is a standard, albeit painful, medical procedure that makes singing physically impossible.
Right. But right around the exact same time she announced the cancellation, her performance of New Rules on Jimmy Kimmel Live was broadcast on national television in the U.S.
And this is where the media scrutiny turns toxic. An Australian journalist, Richard Wilkins, goes on his program, 9 News, and basically accuses her of faking her illness to get out of her contractual obligations.
He sees her dancing on his television screen and essentially says to his audience, look, she's lying about her surgery to skip out on her Australian fans. She's perfectly fine. She's performing on Kimmel right now.
Which is a profound misunderstanding of how television works.
What?
Or, more likely, a willful ignorance designed to generate a controversial headline. Lipa fired back immediately on Twitter.
She had to set the record straight.
She pointed out the obvious reality of the television industry. The Kimmel performance was not live. It had been pre-recorded a full month earlier while she was in Los Angeles. While the episode was airing, she was, in fact, recovering from surgery in bed with ice packs strapped to her face.
Wilkins eventually issued an apology, but Lipa noted in a subsequent interview how dangerous and upsetting that accusation was. And I think this is where we have to pause and look at the broader cultural context.
Why was the immediate knee-jerk assumption that she was lying?
That is the million-dollar question. If a legacy male rock star cancels a tour date for a medical emergency, the immediate reaction is usually concern. Hope he gets well soon. Why the double standard?
This specific incident highlights a very real, intense scrutiny that young female pop stars face. There is often an insidious rush to question their authenticity, their work ethic, and their fundamental honesty.
The underlying assumption Wilkins made was that she was malicious, lazy, and deceitful, rather than simply a human being experiencing a medical emergency while a pre-recorded tape happened to air.
They are expected to be ubiquitous. They are expected to be flawless machines, infinitely available to consume. And the moment there is a perceived crack in that facade, a canceled show, a tired performance, the media is ready to pounce and tear them down. It's an exhausting dynamic.
It is exhausting, but it also reinforces the central theme of the song. The world will constantly try to tear you down or cross your boundaries, which is exactly why you have to set new rules for how you allow people to treat you.
And despite that noise, the song just kept winning. It dominated the year-end cultural conversations. Time magazine hailed it as the best song of 2017. It was listed on Billboard's Best Gay Anthems of the Year.
Which brings us to a fascinating conclusion about the discrepancy between intended meaning and public interpretation. Caroline Aylan and Emily Warren sat in a room and wrote a highly specific, literal manual for avoiding a drunk text from a toxic ex-boyfriend. That was the intent.
But the public took that specific manual and elevated it. It wasn't just about a bad boyfriend anymore. The public interpretation turned it into a broader anthem of self-worth.
It became an anthem about raising your standards in every aspect of life, romantic, professional, social, and relying on your community to enforce those standards when you are too weak to do it yourself.
It proves that once a song leaves the studio, it belongs to the audience. They will mold it to fit whatever shape they need to survive. We have covered an incredible amount of ground today. Let's do a quick recap. We have followed the meandering, chaotic journey of New Rules. We started in a high-pressure writing camp for Little Mix, where Caroline Aylan, Emily Warren, and Ian Kirkpatrick wrote a stern, highly specific breakup manual born from real-life frustration and a refusal to cater to the male gaze.
We saw how that demo, despite its brilliant lyrics, was rejected by the industry for lacking a traditional hook. It sat in purgatory until it was discovered and wholly embodied by Dua Lipa, who transformed it with her distinct, authoritative vocal presence recorded on a vintage 251 microphone.
We dug deep into the Wero pop production. We looked at the physics of time-stretched alien vibrato vocals. We explored how aggressive OTT compression turned acoustic desk tapping into massive percussion.
And we revealed the brilliance of leaving the pitch-shifted, gated ghost voices of the songwriters in the final mix. We saw the absolute power of the dare to suck philosophy.
We explored the visual storytelling of the Miami music video, inspired by 80s fashion and the communal flocking patterns of flamingos. We saw how the high-low fashion and the rejection of the catfight narrative sparked a viral movement of female solidarity, pushing the song to over 1 billion views.
And finally, we tracked its historic chart run, breaking records while simultaneously navigating the unfair media scrutiny and controversies that inevitably come with being a young woman at the absolute pinnacle of the pop music world.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. When we look at everything we've unpacked today, from the lyrics to the production to the cultural impact, it becomes clear that New Rules didn't succeed because it was smooth, effortless, or perfectly planned.
It succeeded precisely because it deeply embraced friction.
Friction, that's a great way to put it. Explain how that connects everything.
Think about it. There's the emotional friction of the lyrics, the painful process of confronting your own weakness, battling the temptation of a toxic ex, and setting hard boundaries.
Right.
There is the musical friction of the production, mashing up sunny, infectious tropical house beats with hypersped, jarring vocals, aggressive distortion, and heavily compressed found sounds from a trash can.
And there is the social friction represented in the music video, the reality that sometimes true friendship isn't just about agreeing with someone. Sometimes you have to create friction. You have to physically block your friend from making a mistake to hold them accountable.
Exactly. We live in a modern world that is increasingly obsessed with smooth, frictionless experiences. We want seamless technology, flawless digital aesthetics, instant gratification, and easy answers. We want a luxury sports car rolling off the assembly line. But the story of this song asks us to consider the exact opposite.
It tells us that friction is where the magic happens.
It suggests that maybe setting hard, unforgiving rules, accepting the inevitable conflict, and fully embracing the messy, weird, chaotic process of sticking to your guns is the true secret to success. Not just in making groundbreaking art, but in living your life.
Embracing the friction. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope you take a little bit of that dare to suck philosophy into whatever you are doing next.
Just go for it.
Allow yourself the freedom to make a mess, to try the bad idea, and to let things be chaotic. Because as Ian Kirkpatrick proved, you never know what kind of billion-view masterpiece you might find buried in that process. And the next time you hear a pristine pop hit on the radio, remember somewhere in there, beneath the gloss, there might just be the sound of someone tapping on a desk, completely figuring it out as they go. See you next time.